Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, so I'm recording now. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm so glad to be here. It's an honor and a pleasure to share this time with you and with your audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So where are you tuning in from?
I'm tuning in from Nashville, the suburbs of Nashville, Tennessee.
Awesome, awesome. I was like, I'm sure my audience can hear your accent. Why don't you just start off by telling us where you are because it's so cute. I love it.
Yes, it's a little bit like deep south, Midwest, back to the south. So there's a little mixture in there, but I'm losing more of the Midwest every year I live here. So now I think it's become even deeper of a southern accent than it was before.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm in the Midwest, so I get it.
hmm
That's perfect. Okay, well, I'll give you a little proper introduction here, just a little nudge of who we're talking to here, everyone. We are talking to Laura Wood. She is a courtship expert and global love mentor. She helps her clients heal from heartbreak, seek closure so they can have clarity in their deepest desires to find forever love and implement a modern courtship model to create truly remarkable relationships that last a lifetime. Laura is a lawyer turned love coach with Southern charm, as we were talking about, with a tough as nails yet sweet as pie approach to coaching, which I love. So, Megan, I'm going to just stop there and we will just say thank you for joining us. I'm so excited to have you here and tell us more about you and your story and how fear had held you back in the past from living your life fully. So, why don't we just start out with something that you want to share about yourself in general, something interesting or something that maybe we wouldn't know about you by just, stalking your Facebook or something.
Sure. Something about me. Well, my story is an interesting one. I practiced law for a decade and
Yeah.
and walked away from that in 2016. And there's a little bit of a backstory. So I'll say that I was an attorney. I was a criminal prosecutor for the last 4 years of my career. Career began in children and juveniles rights, and then I did criminal defense, and then I did criminal prosecution. So I had spent all of my adult life prosecuting crime practicing law until I made the decision in 2016 to leave the practice of law to launch a coaching business. But let me take you back a little bit. I was also married a decade. These 10 years are starting to sort of seem parallels in my life, right? I'm planning my life now, my next career for 10 years, and then we'll figure out what comes next. But I got divorced in 2014 and became a single mom. And as an attorney, I spent every day in a courtroom litigating. I didn't have a whole lot of paperwork to do. I just had cases and files and people to contend with. And so my son and I had been on our own about 2 years when it kind of hit me. I'd never been on a classroom field trip. I'd missed the parties. I wasn't there for reading day. Like he was the first kid there and the last one to leave. And so it hit me like a ton of bricks in December of 2015 that I needed to make some changes to my life if I wanted my son and I to have the quality of life that I wanted. And, walking away
Yeah.
from a career is, especially one in a legal field, is something that very few people understand because it's just a mentality. Like you've spent so much money, so much time, you're in such a prestigious position, but it wasn't enough for me because I was missing out on his childhood. So I made the leap in April of 2016 and left the practice of law, opened my coaching company June the 1st, and I started coaching what I knew first, which was working with divorced women, divorced moms who really wanted to focus on parenting, co-parenting, and dating. And then so I've been divorced 5 years now, and I had to learn how to date all over again. I'd never actually dated as an adult. So when I went through my
Yeah.
divorce, I had never seen a dating app. I had never been on Match.com because I had met my husband and been with him for 14 years. So,
Yeah.
um, like literally, they would ask you out on the marker board in the freshman girls' dorm, like, will you go to the party with me? So I go from a marker
Circle
board
yes or no.
to swiping left and right. And I had my own journey that first year after divorce. And that is where casual dating just really, I thought to myself, there's a different way to do this. This is not who I am. This is not how I want to create a relationship. And I had had a very traditional courtship before my first marriage. And so, and we both lived in the South. And I began really insisting on, men planning dates, men, who wanted relationships to really step up. And I wasn't available for casual dating anymore. And then naturally, because I've been implementing that in my own life, when I began my coaching practice, it was really easy to teach that to women and then to teach that to men. And my clients got results because of the 20 other people in their Bumble profile waiting there weren't many other men willing to plan dates.
Mm-hmm.
And so my business has evolved over the last 3 years. I work with men and women, and right now really focus on helping clients create forever love, the kind of love that lasts a lifetime.
That's amazing. That is so cool. I always joke about that too. I'm married for 8 years now, but I've always said like I'm not getting divorced because that would be scary. That would be scary. It would be more scary to just start over in the dating world of the apps and the swiping, like not just in general, but you know what I mean? Like all of the extra things that it's way different than what it was 10 years ago. Like it's totally different. So I understand that. And I think you're in the right niche because people need help. From the stories that I hear from, I love hearing the love stories actually of my boudoir clients that come in. I ask how they've met their significant other because I love hearing like, is there actually a story or is it that you met online through an app? Right. Which is 90% of them these days that I hear. So I love that you have taken your life experience, all the things that you have been through over the last, decade or plus, just in life, and you've implemented that in helping your clients and stuff yourself. So did you mention, how old is your son?
He is 11.
Okay.
Which is a really fun age. He's the love coach of the now 5th grade. It was love coach of the 4th grade last year. So he's giving out dating advice to the 5th graders.
Oh, there's a movie about that. Oh.
And he, of course, I think falls, he believes in courtship. So he's sharing with these 5th graders about dating. Some of them apparently do go on dates with their parents driving, and mine won't be doing that for a while. Yes. But it's
you can put those in those skills and values and stuff. Just put those on the side, son. Like,
and it's interesting, having this life where I went from the law business to the love business, and really the shifts and the personal transformation and the fears that have come up. If you're listening to this and you've been an entrepreneur for any period of time, you know all about the fears of, the fears and the insecurities and the things you need to learn in order to create the success you desire, and the fear of failure, but the acceptance that's a part of it.
Oh, every day, right? There's something new every day that's somewhere.
Yeah, totally. And so dating is very much the same, kind of starting over for me. And I knew what it was like for women to start over again. And I knew how I did differently and began attracting a very different type of man when I was only available for courtship and had really amazing relationships. And so in teaching that, it really kind of stands out from the crowd. It helps the man or the woman, whoever I'm working with, really make an impression that they're worthy and deserving of 1, courtship, 2, this kind of treatment, and 3, of the relationship that they desire.
And really, I think it's teaching people that, if this isn't what you want, then stop wasting your time on it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I think that's the biggest thing with the apps, that people are stuck in that world of, well, they don't know what else to do because they just think that's the only thing they have an option to do, because people don't have the time to run into someone in a grocery store and have a love story out of a grocery store running.
Right. Or they're not, the big thing I think I see with women is there's healing that needs to be done because they're walled off, they're guarded, they're closed off. And so they're not even interacting on a daily basis with single men that are otherwise very much there in their lives. And so when the women do the healing work, I start to see women become magnetic, and they're like, oh my gosh, all these men talk to me this week. And I'll say, yes, because you're glowing, because you're opening your heart back out to loving again. You're opening it up, and they're able to see that, and you can tell that, and you interact with them in a very different way when you're open.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
It's one of my favorite parts of coaching is when a woman really starts to show that level of radiance and confidence, and then the man that come after, and then the man that gets selected, and the relationship that gets created.
Yeah. That's amazing. The connections are just, I'm all about the connections of everything. So I just love what you stand for and what you're doing with people and how you're bringing your experiences to help other people. I love that. So let's dive in and talk specifically about you
Okay.
and your life experiences. So let's go ahead and tell us more about that time in your life when fear was holding you back from living your life fully.
I think there probably were two times. One was my divorce, figuring out, and the fear wasn't necessarily that I'm getting a divorce. I mean, obviously there's a lot of fear in that, but who am I think was
Mm,
the fear. Like, who am I going to be without the husband, without the label, without the Sunday school teacher, without, like, I don't even know who I am. I've been with this person since I was a teenager. And
yeah.
so that there was a lot of fear around, okay, so this is the first time in my life I have unilaterally had the ability to plan my life.
Yeah.
And this is kind of scary to do this alone for the first time. There was a lot of fear around, okay, like, can I do it all myself? Because I moved from a dorm room into a, house with my husband after college. And so that was a time in which I had a lot of fear, just the fear of starting over. Dating was exciting at the beginning and it was kind of like a social experiment. And then you start to go through dating and relationships, and then some other fears and insecurities kind of creep up. I think the biggest fear has been starting my own business and just, I think, believing in myself that I can do something beyond practicing law, because there's such a mindset shift from that very standard traditional job to really having to look at all of my dark corners and really having to get, deep within me so that I can help clients create the transformation. And so there was a lot of fear in me, like being vulnerable and sharing photos online. And my heart and my head had always been so compartmentalized that in this coaching business, for the first time ever, I really kind of had to let people in. I had to open up and share more of who I was for the fear of judgment. And I do think that fear of judgment still, at times, I will catch myself wanting to talk about things like intimacy more with my group. And then just kind of some of those Southern Baptist conservative roots coming up. Who am I? Like, I'm certainly not perfect, I assure you, and I have a
Right.
lot to offer, but what's the judgment going to be? And I think if there's one thing I have learned intuitively, if I'm feeling it's edgy, it's what I need to be doing. I need to be pushing my edges, because that's how I grow. But fear really can stop you in your tracks. It stops people even in relationships. So let's say in the work that I do, clients are fearful they'll get their heart broken again.
Yeah.
And I live my life knowing I'm going to love fully and live passionately. And there may be broken heart, and I own that. I share about that, because even as a dating coach, I'm not immune to experiencing the pain of true heartbreak. And I write about it because it's a human experience. We all have that. If you're willing, if you desire to have the caliber of love you can create and attract, then there's a level of acceptance of, this could also be heartbreaking, but
Yeah.
I'm not giving up. And so for me, after those breakups, as painful as they were, really, doing the healing work that needed to be done, what's on the other side of that, and then helping clients. Sometimes there's fear even once they get into a relationship, because it's a deeper relationship than they've ever had before. It's more, there's more commitment than they've ever experienced. In the past, they were able to run from it or do something to self-sabotage it, maybe even unknowingly. And so, like, that shelf life on relationships, they're like, all right, I'm out. And I will say, okay, wait a minute. In the past, you would have reacted based on something that triggered you. What's triggering you? And is that why you're leaving the relationship? And is this something that can be communicated and potentially worked out, instead of just sort of the
Starting over.
revolving door, right? It's that 3 to 4 month mark. And there's a reason I work with clients typically 4 to 6 months privately, because that's when I see the biggest shifts.
Mm.
It's because 3 to 4 months into a relationship, and the majority of my clients leave in committed relationships because they come to me to do the healing work. They come to me ready to call in the love of their life, to call in their soulmate. And as much fear as there may be around heartbreak, they're ready. They're like, Laura, I need to know, I need to do whatever the work is that needs to be done to open my heart up to loving again, because I'm ready. I'm ready to have a family. I'm ready to have kids. I'm ready to get married. And so there's a lot of beauty. There's also a lot of pain that I hear about.
Right.
A lot of healing that has to occur. And even once that healing is done, there is still that fear of what if it breaks my heart? And I tell my clients, look, you're not going to be the same person in the next relationship as you were in the last. You
Right.
grow. Relationships are best teachers. You grow, you expand, you learn. The biggest part is learning to trust yourself again. That's the biggest struggle I hear,
Yeah.
particularly from women. Trusting yourself, trusting your judgment, and trusting your intuition. And all of that is, I'm fearful I'll make the wrong decision. I'm fearful I'll keep attracting the wrong men. I'm fearful that, I won't pay attention to the red flags, that I'll ignore them. All that's fear. When we could be shifting that perspective into, how can I create trust? Trust in myself, trust in my intuition, trust in my man, and trust in my relationship.
So true. Yeah. Wow. Absolutely. Those are really significant times that, fear will show up. Relationships that come to an end, which, as you said, we learn whether things, go well or they go bad. I mean, we're learning from every experience that we're having, whether it was a positive or a negative. And we're growing, as you said, every time we're pivoting from whatever that is. So you gave two examples, which is your entrepreneurship and from going traditional, like, I think law practice is probably as like strict as you can get, right? Like you have to follow so many rules and laws and guidelines and all those things. And then now you're like, you got a free for all for going at your own business. And like, what am I doing today? Whatever the hell I want. Like,
yes. Yeah.
So I love it. And okay. So, and you do work with, just to clarify, you work with men and women, but you're focused on women?
So I've had sort of two branches. So the first year of my business was just focused on divorced women. The second year I launched Nashville Wing Woman, which is the male branch predominantly of my business. So I do appearances in Nashville, and that's sort of more of a local market. And then I merged those together over the last 18 months. So right now I would say most of my marketing is geared toward women, because I'm moving more toward group coaching programs for women, Single and Over It, and Fiercely Fulfilled, and also do some teaching from the Desire Map. I'm a licensed facilitator through Danielle Lepore. So those things, and then of course I do have male clients I've worked with in the past who come back for a refresh, or men who follow the Nashville Wing Woman brand who want to come in. I have coaching packages for men and women. Predominantly right now my focus is marketing toward women. I'm moving toward more of a group coaching model.
Okay, cool. So when the fear was holding you down, so whichever story you want to talk about, when the fear was holding you down, and tell us where you were mentally during those times and how you felt about yourself during that.
I would say the fear in leaving the practice of law, because entrepreneurship, was super exciting, but it really was a lot of unknown. And I never in my life have experienced any element really of unknown like then. So there was a lot of just excitement, I think, to be free of the practice of law. There's like this element of freedom that I didn't have to be perfect anymore. I didn't have to, everything didn't have to be exactly right. But I had never done any personal self-development work. So I went into the coaching industry thinking we're good, I've got this, but polish over everything, right? And then quickly realized I had a lot of interpersonal work that I needed to do with my own coach on a very deep level. I had a lot of healing from my own divorce I had never done, and so I think that what kind of got me frozen was, for the first time in my life, I realized I really needed to focus on me instead of something else. So instead of my career, my child, my marriage, like I had to say, Laura, like there's growth that needs to happen, and only you can make that happen by working with the right people. And there was fear in facing the darkness, fear in facing, all the all the things that weren't perfect about me. And then in letting go of that need, the constant need for everything to be perfect, the perfect on paper job, the perfect, the perfect suit, the perfect heels, the perfect makeup, the red lipstick, whatever. And it was kind of, for the first time also in my life, learning to be vulnerable. I mean, I had a coach, and for the first time, I learned how to communicate and be vulnerable. And I had gone 33 years of my life without really letting someone in on a deep enough level that there was enough trust between the two of us, even in my marriage, to know someone was there for me and that I could open up and share whatever it was, and that there wasn't going to be judgment. So fear in stepping into taking on whatever it was I needed to do to prepare myself to work with the clients that I needed to help, and help them heal. I had my own healing to do, and I had no idea. So I think it was just that fear of, I've got to tackle this. I mean, I can ignore this, but it's not going to help my coaching practice grow. I'm not going to become a better mother or a better lover or a better, daughter, unless I do give myself this gift of really healing.
Yeah. I think you're touching on a really important part too, is that, coaches have their own coaches.
They do. Yes, you should.
Coaches have their own coaches.
Yeah.
And when I tell people that I have a coach, they're like, you do? And I was like, of course. I don't know everything. And I need people to bounce ideas off and pull things and point out things, right? Our coaches are there to tell us hey, stop that, or continue that. You're on the right path, or that sounds like you, or it doesn't sound like you, and point out those fears to say, keep going, or pull back, or pay attention at least.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really key point that you bring up too, is that you have your own coach, and that you have to do your own work as well as help other people get through theirs too. So,
and I think also just recognizing the fear, when you recognize and acknowledge what it is, you recognize and observe it, it does take some of the power away. But if you're running from it, hiding from it, resisting it, it can become all consuming. And that goes for any fear that you have, whether it's related to a business or a relationship. There's a process of getting a new perspective on what the fear is, and with my clients, what's really underneath the fear. It's those old beliefs, it's the old relationships, it's the old dating patterns. So how do we shift that so that you have a fresh perspective on dating again, on life, on love?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been coming up with this a lot lately, is that too, I don't know why, but we all have this idea that things are supposed to be comfortable. And everything is brand new. This day is brand new. So of course we're uncomfortable at certain points during every single day, because fear shows up in different ways, whether we're aware of them or not. But being aware of the things that really move the needle in our lives is super, super important. Like you pointed out, being aware of it is where it needs to start, especially if it's something that will stop you from growth.
Absolutely.
So tell us about what compelled you to jump ship from having that fear. So how did you move through that? What really was the tipping point? We're saying, okay, either yes, I needed to commit to the divorce and know that I can do it, or the entrepreneur route where you just had to jump ship and be like, it doesn't have to be perfect, I just have to start. What was the tipping for you?
I think that tipping point with leaving the practice of law was with my son. So that was sort of the aha moment, my soul broken moment. And then I really did not enjoy reading books, but I took up a hobby the new year, January 16th of 2016, and really bought some books all about the mentality. I have a degree in psychology, but they were all about the mindset of people who left the practice of law to go do something else and what they did. And so hearing from other people, and I think really just reading and learning a lot about the coaching industry. So here in the Deep South, it's not necessarily a well-known industry. Certainly, you may have some of that in the Midwest as well. And so I think for me, talking to and interacting with people who were also former attorneys who were now in the coaching world. So my first coach I hired was a former attorney. He had in Canada. So he knew the mindset, he knew kind of how we're taught to think in law school, and how, you know, how we're taught to compartmentalize everything so that nothing is emotional. And so I hired a coach who got that side of me. And I think that was huge that first year and me really making the successful transition. Getting the support you need, I think, is the absolute number one thing that you can do. And think also, I needed to educate myself. I needed to figure out who I was, as well, and kind of going into my business. Like, what kind of business do I want to create? Like, this is all mine. This is my baby. There's no one else making decisions, just me. And those books really kind of help me figure out, okay, what are the options? What are the common areas? I had saved up, so I knew I can get this business off the ground and get it running. And there's been a lot of tweaking, and there's been a lot of evolution in my brand because there's been a lot of evolution in me and in my coaching and depth of my coaching and the spirituality and the intimacy aspects. But books, reading, knowledge from experts, that was huge for me, getting past the fear of leaving law, because otherwise I think I would have stayed had I not began just really following people who had made that transition, and they could very well articulate what the psychological ramifications were, and kind of the distancing, from the legal community, because here they don't know anything about coaching. Like, that's not a common thing, in my local community either. So I think it was me getting really clear as well on what I desired. The desire map was one way I did that early on, was also to really tap into, okay, I'm divorced, I've been divorced 2 years, I'm starting a new business. What kind of life do I want to create for my son and I? And that was the first time I had ever been able to say that. Like, what is the life we want to create? And my son told his teachers, my mom and I have a new life. And the teachers called and they were like, are you moving? And I was like, no, I resigned from my position and I'm launching a coaching company. And they were like, interesting. Yeah. But for him, it was a new life. For him, I pick him up in the car line at 2:30 every day. It was, we have a lot of time in the afternoons and evenings together that we didn't have before. So it's completely changed our lives, and I'm very grateful for that.
Oh, I got goosebumps. That's so awesome. That's what it's all about, right? Like, having those even day-to-day experiences with our loved ones. Like, that's what we're here for. We're not here to just collect our paychecks.
Right.
And so many people are lost on that. And I'm so happy for you that you found something that really brings you fulfillment and that you're passionate about, and that gives you that time freedom. That's amazing. So what advice would you give the viewers for overcoming fear in general? I know we kind of talked about it. So obviously being aware of it, finding a mentor, those are the things that we've kind of talked about so far. What else?
I think the biggest piece is writing. So I think writing is really important. Writing, reflecting, journaling. Like, what is the fear? So name the fear. I mean, that's kind of where you start. What is the fear about? And then I have my clients, usually in a coaching session, I'll say, okay, what's underneath the fear? Like, what's really happening? So if you were to sit down and do this on your own, my fear is I won't be able to do anything other than practice law. Okay. So what are the stories I have? Well, one, that's what attorneys do. Two, I spent X number of dollars going to college and law school. Three, my family will think I'm crazy. My colleagues will, where's the fear? What's it based on? And if you really start to get clear on those stories underneath the fear, especially in relationships, a lot of those stories come from old relationships. Either someone said something, the way they ended, the way they were treated. So now you have this belief and this fear someone is going to treat you the same way, when in reality, this man is nothing like that man.
Yeah.
And so getting clear, it's like peeling back the layers of the onion. Like, I'm in fear. Okay. Of what? And then I continue to ask until we get to the bottom of what's really going on. And that's the biggest way I help clients. I mean, just, okay, let's uncover what's the deepest underlying belief that we have to work with here. And let's see if it's even true. It may not even be true. It may be something you've picked up you may not believe that to be true, but your parents may believe that to be true when it comes to especially money stories, money issues, abundance mindset. And so just get out a piece of paper. If there's something you're really fearful of, write it down, and then write out all the things you think are coming underneath that, because when we live in fear, we cut off our ability to experience joy. and happiness and fulfillment and to love and to be loved, because we react when we're in fear and kind of fight or flight. We react based on conditioning. We react based on defense mechanisms. We're not reacting based on who we are deep down.
Right.
We're reacting based on all this other stuff that we've yet to uncover.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be my number one recommended exercise to practice.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that. That really like makes me so happy, because I'm doing a workshop for the first time this weekend with my new business, that everything that you're talking about, like these pieces, like this is exactly what my workshop puts together in like step by step how to do. I'm like, yes, this is so good. It's just solidifying everything. Okay, so now that you obviously know how to move through those fears, like you're really good at being able to do that and helping other people do that, where do you see yourself 5 years from today?
5 years. Wow. I know when that question was on the forum, I was like, well, I see myself leading my group programs on a much larger scale for women who are single and over it. I really have a passion for, women who have been married or women who have been in long-term relationships and they really are ready for love again. And so I want to continue to grow and expand my coaching practice. I love working one-on-one with clients. But what I'm finding is that as my practice is evolving, that group coaching has also given me the ability to work with a larger number of clients. And so really expanding that, I do have a desire to speak and to speak on the topic. I'd love even if online summits and online love series to be able to share, because I'm sharing a unique message about courtship. There aren't any other coaches I'm aware of. They're talking about it quite in the way that I am. And it's working for my clients and helping them attract the caliber of relationship they desire. And I implement it in my own life. And so, 5 years from now, it's amazing things. Let me think, my son will be almost out of high school. If not, he'll be driving. Gosh, in 5 years. That's a scary thought. He'll be driving. Let's not think about that. There's some fear behind it. Working with a larger audience of women who really want to create love in their life and they are dedicated to supporting one another. I'm adding more spirituality into my practice, including the desire map, including some other spiritual grounding practices. And so expanding, not only what I do on a very practical level, but also spiritual teaching, talking more about intimacy, more about femininity, to really help women tap into particularly those three sources, so that they then can show up with more vibrance and more radiance and more love, both in their life, in their relationships, and in their careers.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm projecting that within this 5 years that you and I are like meeting in person and we're doing some kind of a workshop, because with what I do with boudoir photography, like that all sounds like we would have the same people and that your women would really benefit from seeing themselves the way that I would show them.
Right. Totally.
That's so cool. I love what you're working with, how you're going about it. I just love your vibe and how you connect with your clients and with your own experiences in that too. So Thank you so much for your time. Where is the best place for the viewers to come connect with you?
I'll give you two great places. So the website is www.lauraleewood.com, LauraLeewood.com. And then probably the number one place I would love to see you, there's a Facebook group called the Sisterhood of Soulful Singles. So again, the Sisterhood of Soulful Singles on Facebook. I would love to have you join me there. I do weekly Wednesday Wing Woman workshops. And so today I'm doing a live Q&A, and typically we'll have some other training every Wednesday of the week. And it's a great group of women, and we're growing spiritually, we're growing within our relationships, really supporting one another. I wanted to create a community that women really were there for one another. They wanted to support one another, a high level of desire to grow themselves, to attract a remarkable man, to create a remarkable relationship, and to be in a community filled with people who have faith in the love that they desire to attract. And that's huge.
That is huge.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. I love the culture that you're creating in there. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Thank
You
you
should
so
join
much.
us sometime.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Go find Laura and connect with her on whatever avenue works best for you. But join that group and check it out. She does some amazing content, and why not get some training every week, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time, Laura. This was such a treat. And is there one last thing that you would want to leave with the viewers? What's one last thing that you want to say about fear or just anything? Caught you off guard with that one.
Yeah. We hear this a lot, love more, fear less. You know, my policy is live life with an open heart, love with an open heart. And so, you know, if your heart is closed, you can't experience the love you desire to give or receive. But if you live and love with an open heart, you can do both. And you can create miracles of love to come in and flow through you. And it's been a pleasure and honor to be here with you and your audience today. Thank you so much for having me. And it's been a blast. I love talking about love and the love business. So I would love to meet some of the beautiful women that are your followers and in your community. They'd like to hop on over and connect and give me a shout out. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I just want to point out that, do you know that your wording is very like courtship, and you just said my policy? Like, do you know that your verbiage too, like, tells me that you were in the lawyer realm? Did you know that? Is that on purpose? Do you do your wording like that on purpose? Is that
No.
part of your branding?
No, it's not.
You
No.
are.
It's not. It's funny. Someone once said you should do courtship in session and do like the SHI, so court in session. I'm like, I don't want to be hosting court anymore. We'll talk about courtship. Yeah, as an alternative to the modern dating culture. So yeah, I did. It's interesting. Sometimes some of those words do slip out, and I don't notice them. Yeah, that's funny.
Well, I think I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I think it's very interesting because your story, the way that we just talked about it, like how both those things go together, I think there's something there.
Yeah.
And the way that you were just talking about things, I was like, wow, I'm looking down the paper seeing like courtship, and I'm like court and lawyer. And then you said something about policy, and the word policy jumped out at me. And I was like, that's so interesting. Like, some of your lingo is not something I would, like, those words are not something I would ever say.
Yeah.
But because that's your life experience, right? Like, you were in that realm. It makes sense that those are words that like you naturally just like draw out of yourself.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if it was on purpose, like intentionally using those words as your past and pulling together, or if it's just how it flows.
It's just how it flows. Yes. It just rolled off my tongue without me even noticing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just felt the need to point it out, that I was like, it's so interesting. There might be something there that it sounds kind of corny to think about it that way, but it's your story. That's how you got into this. So I don't know. I wouldn't close that door yet. In 5 years, you might totally have a different outlook on all of that and be like, this is this and this, and this is how they went together, and this is your story. And
yeah, you never know. I do think the lawyer story, though, because of just the mindset of being a lawyer, and the transformation I've experienced now to becoming a love coach, I think that is something I can help women with, especially with tapping into the femininity aspect. Women who are in like very masculine careers, and that transition, and that really plays into a relationship. You know, you being able to tap into the feminine energy and show up as in your feminine essence, is very different than how even I prosecuted. My day was very masculine. And then, you know, my dates, I had to learn how to make a transition and get ready for date nights and kind of turn things off there and really focus and be fully present on dates. So
that's true.
it helps me connect with successful single women and single men because I know the mindset of that career and that career path.
Well, I love that you just pointed out the masculine and feminine energy and how you want to work, like talking about the work with women that are in a masculine industry. I think that's really a key, because they really don't know how to, you know, they're questioning how to move forward with it because it's all they know.
That, and then, you know, how do I turn it off and what can I do? what can I do, to sort of get ready for dates? And that's something I work with clients on as well. And so, yeah, I think that's a huge piece that we don't talk about a lot.
Right.
That masculine, feminine balance.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, yeah, but there's something to it. And, I have my clients start doing feminine practices so that they can tap into that easier when they're dating. I think one of the big things is the softening and just, really being open to receiving compliments. It's just kind of some really basic things, but as oftentimes in our masculine character, we just, oh, I threw this together in no time, or oh, it wasn't a big deal. And so, first thing I have clients do is start accepting compliments that people are giving you. It's just that one thing. And then, of course, in courtship, when the man's planning dates, there's a level of mutual respect there. And then, the women get to express appreciation. Thank you so much for planning a date for me. And so it really does help balance out. Courtship helps balance that feminine masculine energy, because a woman is planning for a date. She's getting ready. The man is planning the date and making reservations or buying tickets, and she gets to relax into that, having not had to plan that herself after running a business all week.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. I'm so glad that we just like pulled that nugget out of there, because
Yeah.
I would normally stop it and then I would say something to you about that. Like I would normally not say that on camera. So I was like, no, I need to stop stopping myself and just let it flow if I feel like I need to say something. And the verbiage was something I needed to touch on. And that's so that we could bring to this, because I think that's really important. And anyone that's watching, ladies, if you are in a masculine industry or a position where that's how you feel, reach out to Laura and connect with her about that. And she'll give you some tips and whatever. She'll do her thing with you. So thank you for sharing that and staying a little extra with me for that. That was so fun.
Yeah. Thank you
Absolutely.
again for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you for your time. Everyone that's watching, remember to love yourself and live fearlessly. Have a great day.